Hello, everyone. Benjamin and I had a fantastic conversation. We detailed many topics, but a few I'll list quickly are skills worth building, perceptions on the past and the future, habits, systems, and tools that will help you become the person you are aiming to be. And this all requires patience and at least having some sort of a clear idea of whom you admire and that person that you are looking to emulate. But it was a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot from Benjamin, and it was a good time. So enjoy it. This conversation is not one to be missed. You will get value.
I've chosen to consume their thinking. And then in that 1 to 2 minute video, it's like a way to connect with them on, one more layer deeper in terms of connecting as a human being. And so you just, you kind of naturally, like, you see that and you're like, okay, I connected with this creator in this way. I might as well replicate that. And it's not because it's going to be like an engagement driven, you know, action. It's because it's something that you recognize is going to create depth, and that depth of connection ultimately is kind of what it's all about. Like any sort of networking, like whether it's online or in person.
Yeah, that's a piece of what is often overlooked when in our social media area is the deeper connections. And that's one of the most fulfilling pieces of it when you actually build and you have part of this podcast that I'm really didn't foresee is the actual depth of a conversation. And
Yeah.
every time I finish having a conversation, I walk away just in such a fantastic mood because we're building our listening skills. We're learning from a whole nother perception of, we're all coming from different environments and areas. And although maybe our goals may intertwine, there's always different points of view, even
Yeah.
in the same realm. So it's that real deep connection that is quite often overlooked when you're simply just scrolling on social media. You can often, so many people are the keyboard warrior type or the ones who can say mean things through a screen, but you would never say it in person.
Yeah.
And but even though we're not on that side of negativity, actually having the deep conversations, it's like, wow, this person isn't just on social media. They're a real human being. And now I'm
Yeah.
actually getting to know this human being.
It's so funny, you bring up that people will maybe allow a different part of themselves to come out online, like kind of behind the shield of a keyboard. And it's sort of fun to call it, like, ignore or like whatever. It's an opinion anyway. But also to kind of call them out and just be like, hey, come on, man. Like, I'm just a person. Like, why are you being a jerk? And then, half the time, like they'll like, F you, whatever. But then like every once in a while, you just someone will be like, I'm sorry. I was being kind of a jerk. You're right. It's just like, I don't know. I think that it's so easy to forget that, yeah, everybody's a person. Like there's so much social media and news and like global events that are outside of our control. There's so much of that that's coming into our consciousness nonstop that is like a barrage. And it's like if you wake up and you start consuming from the very beginning of your day and then you just kind of pepper that throughout your day nonstop, it's like you never give yourself a chance to get centered. You're from the very moment you wake up in a reactive mode to other things. And when those things are outside of your control, it puts you in a reactive mode and in a state of helplessness or a perceived helplessness. So yeah, it's not the best.
Yeah, and a lot of humans are living in a constant state of fight or flight because of what you just mentioned. You wake up from the start and you do not spend the time to get centered. And then all throughout the day, there's studies that link social media usage to anxiety and chronic stress. And it's such a battle because you can use Twitter like we're doing in such a beautiful manner. But I did see one of your tweets back in the day, and it was something along the lines of how maybe one day it feels like you're winning on Twitter, but then
Yeah.
another day it feels like nothing's working. And
Yeah. Some days you're
it's
like, I'm gonna be an online millionaire by next week, and everything is gonna be, and then yeah, and then like you write 3 tweets that you think are really good, and they get like nothing.
right.
It's like
It's such a balance we have to
so
really
funny.
work on constantly.
Yeah. I mean, it's a knife, right? It's like it's just a tool, and the tool that social media is it happens to be a sharp knife. And I think that as a content creator, you have to just be aware of the fact that, like, hey, we're using a tool that is designed to be addictive, right? And it's designed to be like, if we click off and we're like, oh man, there's more I could have done, I want to stay on there longer, then Twitter's doing its job, or whatever, whatever platform it's doing its job. And so we have to like kind of outsmart ourselves as creators. And I think everyone should, whether you're creating anything or not, but to set limits on your own time, knowing that when I get to the point where I'm in the moment, I'm not going to want to stop. So I have to make a decision now, and I have to put a plan in place now to kind of like outsource my self discipline, because I know that in this area at this moment in time, I know I'm going to be weaker than I am right now. And so we kind of, I think the more self-aware you become just as a person, the more you can just kind of be aware of what you're allowing in your life, and just having the ultimate say on that. Like, so we've been talking about social media, but like alcohol is another good example. Or like, if you're going to have alcohol in your life, you can go the 100% on 100% off route. But I think for most people, it's probably more helpful just to ask, like, okay, how do you want this to show up? Like, what example do you want to have for your kids? What do you want them to remember as normal from when they were kids? What standard do you have for yourself? And then it gets away from the, like, what is the right or wrong way to deal with alcohol, and it's like, hey, what is the state of life that you want, that you would be proud of, and then what does this particular thing look like in the context of that life, and then you do your best to live that out.
Focus on the standard that you're setting in your life and how we choose to invest our time rather than spend our time. Going back to the alcohol idea, it's as if when you have kids, so you're a father, I'm still not a parent, but I'm already anticipating the habits, the routines, the structure that I'm building myself right now. I am looking forwards to being a father one day. So I'm trying to implement the correct way of living in this current moment and every day. But it really is a choice you have to make. And I think something that people don't focus on enough is the anticipation of the future. I've always been someone who, and it's a fine balance because you don't want to live in a delusion of the future, but you also are going to be in a tough spot if you do not foresee and anticipate potential regrets. And the way you spend each day is something that really matters. If you're going to use your time to drink alcohol and numb yourself constantly, it's going to create a toxic structure for your whole family. And on the other side, if you do something amazing and you're celebrating and you have the self-discipline, the high standards that okay, I'm having alcohol tonight and tomorrow I'm getting right back to my normal structure. It's a fine line that we have to understand. We can't or we shouldn't just immerse and indulge in pleasures constantly. But that doesn't mean we can't have nice pleasures that are going to be viewed upon as a reward rather than a addiction. It's life is something that unravels slowly. And in my younger days, I was running from reality, numbing myself consistently. But now I do have that full perception where it's okay to celebrate, but you must have earned the celebration. We don't want to just be drinking to drink.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Do you have what do you think about that?
I think ultimately you have to be able to figure out what your values are, like what matters to you, and then build a life that's in alignment with those. And yeah, I think, it takes time to kind of figure that out. It takes time to figure out what type of person you are and what does make you happy personally, professionally, whatever it might be. Um, and kind of like the social media and alcohol examples, like you've got to be able to really step outside of your own life and analyze what is going on with my life. Like, what am I creating? What am I doing with it? What is the direction that it's going in? Right. And then, like, what direction do I want it to go in? Because if you aren't asking those questions, then it's sort of like, well, you're just a boat kind of going around in circles. Like, you need to have that direction in mind. But here's the thing. I think that when it comes to like the present, the past, and the future, we do need to have an integrated view of all three. We need to have accepted and processed the past, as painful as it is. And we need to be able to look into the future and have a direction. And we need to be able to do those things so that we're not hiding from parts of ourselves. But we also need to have limits on them, because it should really be like max 10% thinking about the past, 10% thinking about the future, right? And then 80% living in the future, if not more. So 80% living in the present, if not more. Because like this stuff right here is the stuff of life. Like everything that we're here for is happening in this moment right now. And so learning how to make a habit of being present and a habit of gratitude is really powerful for that. But the interesting thing is, if you know that part of the purpose of life is to enjoy the present moment as it's happening, then you also recognize the importance of planning ahead and having long-term goals and then short-term execution. Because basically it's saying, like, you're thinking of time as like a currency, and the value of it is how much you can be present and the quality of the time that you're present, with your family, with your kids, just like doing your job, like enjoying the things that you're doing. And so, making tactical, smart, informed decisions as to the course of your future is going to change all of that. Right. So there's, yeah, I think that it is worth the time and energy to process the past and plan for the future, but with the goal of supporting, yeah, just being aware and being responsible with your choices and making choices that are in alignment with who you are.
That's exactly how we should act upon our lives. Is you don't want to live in that delusion of the future, and you don't want to live in the past. There's surely experiences to gather from the past, learn from them, but what are some of the tools or habits that allow you to be present? Because that's a hard topic. I myself have struggled with it a lot, and each day I'm working to be more present. But there's surely tools, and I'm a big strategy guy. I love to have those systems in place, because
Yeah.
if not, if I leave it up to my personal discipline, it's easy to make mistakes. So what methods do you use to remain present?
So, I mean, I think first of all, it's important to be patient with yourself and know that like anything that you want in your life probably comes down to a skill, like whether it's making money or being present or being happy, like or being strong. Like if there's some quality of life, there's probably a skill that goes into that, right? And some skill that can be executed with consistency. Um, for like going to the gym once isn't going to do anything, but if you go consistently, then you're going to then get this quality of being strong. And I think with being present, the activity is a grounding and gratitude practice, and it can look different ways. But it's what I found to be the most effective. And you kind of it's like a muscle, right? Like I'm not present all the time. Like I need time to like escape, and it's like nobody gets away from being human. But I choose to exercise a practice of gratitude and grounding consistently enough that I'm able to be more present more often than I would be otherwise. And to me, that's a win. So, like, I guess a quick run through of the practice. I would start with grounding and literally looking around you and just kind of describing what is coming through your senses. So, like a wooden table, a white wall, blue lid, uh, wind on the tree, taste of coffee in my mouth, right? So you're just like kind of naming the environment. If you're walking, it's helpful too. You can like feel the sensation of stepping. Basically, just like reminding yourself, like, hey, like I am here in a physical body in this place. Like I am, like, hey, like I'm alive. In the mornings, I actually will put my fingers right here, and I'll just feel my pulse for I don't know 10-20 seconds or so. And that's a really good way, like when you're kind of waking up and you're groggy, it's a good way to kind of get grounded and like you're feeling the beat of like your blood through your body. Right, anyway, you get grounded, and then you go through a 3-step gratitude practice, and the first being choosing gratitude for something immediate. And you just kind of went through that grounding exercise, so you can kind of build off that. But like something immediate is helpful, like the wind on my skin, watching the sunrise this morning, petting my dog, something small, right? Because the goal here is just to kind of flip the switch from a feeling of being a victim to a feeling of, no, I'm going to do something about my life, right? So you flip that switch by going into gratitude for something. And when it's something small, that's easy, right? Then you go to the next step up, which is gratitude for something meaningful. And, for me, that's often something with my boys or my wife. It might be like having this conversation, having a meaningful conversation with someone. Um, maybe there's a habit that you're building and you just followed through. It wasn't a great day showing up, but damn it, you showed up, right? You focus on something meaningful. And then the third step of this gratitude practice is to think about whatever obstacle is in front of you and to choose to see the opportunity through that obstacle, because there is nothing difficult that we do that doesn't strengthen us, and there's nothing that we get strengthened by that isn't difficult in some way. And so if you kind of switch your lens from like, oh my gosh, this is happening to me and like my life sucks, like kind of just switch gears to now see it as, okay, I'm getting stronger in some way, and this problem that cropped up happens to be the path forward. Cool. And if you didn't have that path forward, if you didn't have that problem in front of you, you would not get stronger. You would not become a healthier, happier person. And so you can get to a point where you choose gratitude for those challenges. And when you can do that, then you become unstoppable. Because if you can be faced by a problem and feel all the pain and stress of it, but also choose gratitude for it, it just, I don't know, it just kind of shifts how you look at problems, and it shifts how you look at a lot of things in life.
I think there's a point we get to where rather than learning and gathering more information, of course, we always learn, but we need to focus more on reminding ourselves more so than just attaining new information. Like, you cannot be stressed and appreciative at the same time.
Mm.
And a lot of these things that have led me to being a happier person is something so simple as I'm laying in my bed and I have negative thoughts coming in my head. But then, like you mentioned, I bring myself to that feeling of gratitude. I have this soft bed and my room is enclosed. I don't have rain, or I'm not exposed to the environment. I literally have so much to be grateful for. But if we don't remind ourselves of that, we can get caught in this negative feedback loop of our thoughts just being destructive. And so being grounded, going for that walk and noticing, I have five senses. And not to say that other people who have maybe they're blind and only have four senses can't be grateful, but oh my gosh, how lucky are we to have all of our senses? And then we catch ourselves complaining. It's much better, take a step back, remind yourself of all of these things that you have, whether it's the running water, the ability to change the temperature of your shower. I like how you mentioned it's the simple things. Once you can appreciate step one and notice the simple things around you, like this, then we can move into the deeper aspects that must be appreciated, like the meaningful conversation or the fact that my mom is still alive. But it all starts with, okay, I'm in this comfortable chair right now. Technology is allowing me to conversate with Benjamin. If technology wasn't a thing, then we wouldn't be able to build a friendship and a relationship. So it's so easy to catch yourself being pessimistic, but once we take that reminder, step back, you really do have so much to appreciate. Happiness is such a term that is viewed, okay, that guy with the Lamborghini and the blonde is happy, but really happiness is determined by our thoughts and how we
Yeah.
wire ourselves. And it took me so long to figure that out. I'm still, it's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
But if I was told that the materialistic things will come once you fix and correct your internal environment, that would have helped me a lot as a younger person. But better late than never. The internal environment is a tough topic because it's always requiring effort and work to improve. But that routine that you went over was absolutely beautiful. And I I would love to hear a bit about how you structure your day. What do you do right in the morning to get yourself off on the right foot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was actually thinking about it this morning because I really like having the same routine each day. And right now, just my workout schedule early morning is kind of weird, a couple days a week. So I get up at like 4:30, which is fine, so that I can go do this workout at 5 with a group called F3, which is awesome. If if anybody wants to like get themselves mentally in shape, find like just get connected with a group of guys, start working out, because the accountability gets you to be consistent, and then the consistency gets you like mental resilience, and then like any physical stuff is like a side effect almost. Um, anyway, so I do that a couple mornings a week, and I'm kind of in a stage where I'm experimenting with timing wise, but generally in that first 90 minutes, I will have done a workout, and I'll do 30 minutes of mental priming. And for mental priming, it's kind of a blend of like meditation, prayer, and visualization for the day. And I'll do the gratitude practice in there as well. And yeah, kind of thinking through the objectives, and kind of doing that after a bit of meditation is really helpful because it sort of lets the sediment come down, and you're not thinking about whatever's the most urgent. You're able to kind of step back and think, okay, what are the big important pieces that I want to accomplish today, and bring those to the forefront. I do use like a daily planning system. So once I start my day, I'll do some time with a daily planner, and then have that connected to a larger thing. But I like to still kind of visualize like what's coming up separately from that, because sometimes something that will be important that will come up during that mental priming session that I won't necessarily have on my to-do list, built in. So it's just a way to kind of, yeah, combine the start of your day with that kind of mental awareness and mindfulness, and to have a sense that you are going to make progress on the most important things. Because there's, for every single one of us, we have more good work to do than we can accomplish in a day. And so being able to identify what the critical tasks are to work on becomes really important. And kind of like you said, we're all a work in progress, right? Like these are all skills that we continue working on and practicing, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it.
Yeah, I can relate surely to getting the physical body going early. I've been waking up at a similar time that you mentioned, and almost immediately I want to mention it's so important to stay off the phone, to keep yourself in a non-reactive state early in the day. Get grounded, realize that you're in control of your mood, and then expose yourself to outward external in the environments after you've already done a bit, got that workout in, maybe had a chat with someone at the gym, and realize that you are in charge of how you feel, and it's your choice. Happiness is a choice. It's not something to leave up to chance. And so going into the idea that we all have much more work to do than we can accomplish in one day, what are some of the strategies or systems that you use to get your best work? For me, I put a timer on for 50 minutes. I've been working 50 minutes on, 10 minutes off, put the headphones in with some binaural beats or any sort of wordless music. And that helps a lot when I'm writing. But yeah, what systems do you implement to get your
Yeah,
best deep work?
I like that. Yeah, I'll use binaural beats when I'm doing my priming in the morning and sometimes when I'm working too. Um, I think it's important to recognize that there are like different systems you can use to achieve the same result. And with that in mind, you can get away from this way of thinking where it's like, well, I do it this way. Well, no, you do it that way because you're used to doing it that way. It's just like, but it's just like a, it's a tool, it's a strategy, it's a path to getting something. So, so first of all, I think it's helpful to know that when in doubt, just go simple. Go with whatever strategy is going to help you move forward in that moment. Okay. And over time, if you're intentionally practice something, you are going to get better at using that new strategy or skill. But in times of crisis, the past is addicting, and our brains in times of crisis will revert to old ways of doing things. So that's important to know, because you're gonna like, I don't know, like procrastination is a good example. If I'm working with somebody on how to get over procrastination, and then they have some big, item come up, and they get into crisis mode, and they go, we've been practicing using a certain tool or strategy, but they revert to their, staying up all night to get this project done type of thing. That is actually pretty normal. It's pretty normal to kind of revert. So I think it's important for all of us to give ourselves patience and grace for when we do mess up, and also give ourselves permission to practice new strategies and new ways of doing things and new ways of thinking. And I don't know, I think that I hesitate to say any specific like right or wrong way, but I'll usually present like usually whatever like kind of realm is, I'll present a couple like options or tools, and then and then kind of adapt that. One that's really helpful is a tool called Freedom, and it's just like a web and app blocker, and it syncs between your phone and desktop, so it can be really useful for you know Twitter, for example, deciding I'm going to allow myself to use blank amount of time on Twitter, and here's the schedule that's going to help me enforce that. It's that idea of outsourcing your self-discipline and outsourcing your decisions so that you're able to make it even when you get to the moment where you don't actually want to make it anymore.
That's very good. From the theme I'm getting from you, I resonate so well with the idea of being flexible, having an array of tools rather than you can only do one,
Yeah.
only that one. No, there's going to be different times where, like you said, you're meditating on something and it pops into your head. It's not in your daily planner. Okay, remain flexible, and if it's a high priority task, you can replace it for something else. And it's this idea of not being too rough on yourself, accepting that the road will be bumpy, but we have to focus on setting up our environment to support us in the goals that we're looking for. So using those time blocks, I like to use Notion, the Dan Co Power Planner. It just helps me get a rough guideline for what I want to accomplish in
Yeah.
my day. I don't always follow it to the T, but at least I have a little outline. And that's something that is probably really rough for procrastinators. They're not time blocking, they're not focusing on each little area of their day and what they want to accomplish in the day, because if they were, they wouldn't leave it all to the end of their day. So, and something that's been big with me is almost knowing what to avoid is just as important as knowing what to do. For example, going back to Twitter, when I get on Twitter, I try to tell myself, okay, am I going to comment right now? Am I going to tweet right now? Am I
Yeah.
going to reach out to someone right now? What do I want to get done with this time right now? And because it's so easy, and we have a plethora of distractions. That's something I would like to speak on is how do you remain not focused in your day, but what are some of the most common distractions that you go through, and what are the solutions you implement to disperse those distractions?
Yeah. So I mean, Twitter is probably the biggest one because it's the main platform that I use. So it makes sense. It's like if if you buy a red car, if you buy a red Mazda, you're going to start seeing red Mazdas all over. Um, and so if you're using Twitter, it's going to be like just naturally more on the forefront of your mind. So that's definitely the easiest distraction. And yeah, using the Freedom app is helpful for that because you can go in and just say like, okay, I, I'm sh- I know I need to work on this project, or I'm choosing to work on this project. And I know myself well enough to know that I'm going to probably be distracted. And I think there's some humility there, right? Because if you're like, I'm a badass, I can just tough it out. And then 20 minutes later, you're sitting there on Twitter instead of making progress on your project. Like I mean, I don't know. I always tell my clients like, hey, I'm really qualified to help you on this stuff because I'm like the worst procrastinator and perfectionist. And like these are all things that I've had to figure out how to overcome. Right. And it's sort of like when you figure out your own idiosyncrasies and challenges and you start learning ways to overcome them, they don't go away. You still deal with them. Right. We can know about the addictive nature of Twitter, and but knowing about it doesn't make us immune to it. And so we have to do better than just knowing ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves and like plan things out a little bit and have a plan in place for how we want our energy to be spent. So that gets back to that idea that having like 10% of your time spent on looking ahead and planning the future is very different than spending an hour being anxious about some problem coming up in a week, right? Because simply being anxious is putting your focus on something that's out of your control, like it's in the future, it hasn't happened yet. Whereas saying, okay, here's where I want to go, here are the actions I'm going to take to get to this targeted point in the future, that's a completely different activity. And I think that if you keep your focus on the past and your focus on the future to a intentionally small degree, but not zero, right? Because I think it's really unhealthy to go to zero. Then yeah, you can I think create the habit of processing and planning while remaining present.
It's a fine line it's as if we're juggling constantly, but it our focus has to be on noticing the thought process. And if you're spending an hour suffering in complete anxiety, you have to take a step back and just realize or ask the deeper question: what is worrying right now going to do for the situation? And the answer usually, besides maybe 5 minutes of strategic planning, if you're worrying for an hour, you're not helping yourself. You're actually draining potential energy that could be flipped, invested into seeking a solution,
Yeah.
whether that solution comes from journaling or maybe taking a break, getting mental clarity, going on a walk, or reading a book, getting some exercise in. There's plenty of avenues to clear your mind rather than suffering, and it's most suffering is internal. It's internally caused by us. And if we can just remind ourselves in the moment, this isn't going to help me, so how can I help myself right now? And so let's say my goal is to become a coach. I know you have your own website and you actively coach one-on-one people. One of my goals is to help people. And going back to what you spoke on, you are so qualified to help certain people in certain avenues because you were so bad at
Yeah.
that in the past. And that's exactly
And in the present, okay, let's give credit where credit's due. I still suck at some of these things, but I'm active. I'm active in them, right? And that's the difference.
exactly. You notice them, you remind yourself how to fix this when it occurs. And that's what I want to do for people is how can I help the younger Justin, the Justin who sat in his head for hours being miserable rather than taking a little walk. And
Yeah.
then bada bing, my thoughts are flowing again. I can be grateful for the sun, grateful for
It's
the ability to move.
Yeah, it's ridiculous how much of a difference just taking a walk makes. It's like the most simple, it feels like it's too easy to be true, right? It's like, no, come on, there's gotta be some complicated. It's like, no, if your day sucks, like just stand up and go on a walk, man, because I think so often we get into this mindset of like it's too hard to get out of this spot. The energy it would take to get out of this pain is too much. I don't have it, therefore I'm stuck in the pain. And I think if you can, number one, recognize that that's not true, that there's always a third option, then you can, I don't know, start to do something about it. Because like if you're stuck, it's probably because it feels too big, it feels too overwhelming. And so I like to think of it like, how do you climb a mountain? One step at a time, right? It's just you just figure out what is the next step to take in the direction that I am choosing to go. I might be depressed and have no energy, not be able to get out of bed, be stuck in my head. But I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know that the destination I'm going toward, and I'm going to die before I quit, is to create a state of life that I enjoy, where I feel fulfilled and happy. And if you make that choice and decide to go for that and just don't quit, because all the winding avenues and paths that you'll go on as you go down that path, it's too much for someone to be like, here you go, here's the perfect solution. But if you make that decision to go down that path and not give up, you will get there. Or because most people, it just feels like too big, because I don't have the solution now. It's too big of a thing to try to work out, and therefore, because they can't see how they would build a life that they enjoy, they think it's impossible. And that's why, sometimes people see someone who's happy and like feel kind of annoyed or irritated. Be like, yeah, either A, they're faking it, or B, they have some unfair advantage that I don't have. That's where our minds go. And instead, if we could look at it and be like, hey, I thought everybody was unhappy, but look, there's somebody right there who has figured out how to live a life that it seems like they actually enjoy. Like, wouldn't you want to like figure out, okay, what is that person doing? Like, what are their habits? Oh, they read a bunch. Okay, so maybe I should read a bunch. Oh, they get up early. Oh, they plan out their day. Like, if you can kind of notice, like, hey, these people that tend to be successful and enjoy their lives, they all do have these habits in common. They're all a little bit different, right? You kind of figure out your own blend, but they all get up early. They all read a lot. They all, have learned how to connect with other people. And these are skills that can be acquired. When you get into that mindset, it's like, oh, okay, so you actually have a lot more control of your life than you realize. And when you realize that you have control of your life, and that it's not just necessarily like choosing happiness isn't like, ding, I'm happy. It's okay, let's build a life that that consistently generates the conditions that you perceive as happiness, right? Because like you find out what are the things that fulfill you. If serving is something that fulfills you and you never schedule service into your like calendar, you're going to feel a little bit empty inside. If intimacy is something that's important to you, makes you feel fulfilled and connected, and you don't have that scheduled in, you're going to feel that. And so a lot of unhappiness is actually unalignment, where people are doing things that aren't necessarily in line with who they are, and they're not quite sure who they are. So figuring out, okay, like, what do you stand for? What matters to you? And let's build from there.
You have to start somewhere. And I love the idea a 10-year vision rather than a 2-week vision. Okay, we commit to who we want to be. First, we do have to ask the questions and figure out our values. Ask, what do I perceive my future to be like? And for me, a quick example, I wanted to be financially free. Of course, I wanted to be happy and healthy. So how do I attain those things? Well, you start to ask questions. A lot of life just comes from really investigating yourself, knowing thyself.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can actually put plans into place. But I've been that guy who sees someone who is in better shape or happy, and you get a little bit of resentment. But
You're
then,
like, F you,
right, you must.
smiling all over the place. I'll punch you in the face, man.
Right. And a lot of people, the reason they're so unhappy is because they play that victim card, acting as if their happiness is completely out of their control. Well, once you take accountability for how you react to certain situations, like to be angry is an act of an uneducated person. And I'm not saying I don't get angry, but my point is you need to cultivate self-control. There are going to be moments where maybe the keyboard warrior or maybe someone just in person completely frustrates you. But if you have that emotional intelligence to notice yourself in that moment and be self-awareness has to be one of the most important things, because without the knowing of who you want to be and where you want to go, you're going to fall down this path that is not ideal. Like referring back to you mentioned, if you take joy in intimacy or the service of others, well, how about you plan that and put that into your schedule? Because if not, you're leaving your happiness up to the external environment. And by doing that, that's how you become that grumpy person who gets angry when they see others smiling or someone in good shape. And what I figured out personally is, okay, you can plant seeds, you can lead by example, you cannot force people to want to be better. And that's a hard thing that I've had to accept, because on my personal journey of growth, I want to raise the people up around me, but if they don't want, you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. And sometimes that's rough to swallow, but it's good to know.
It's true. Yeah, so I had been coaching for the last 2 years with the company, and it was great, fantastic experience with them. But one of the challenges was, sometimes I would get paired with a client that kind of wanted a result but didn't want to do the work required for it. And so one of the benefits of, I went independent at the beginning of the year. One of the benefits of working for myself is just being able to only work with the people that I know are going to do the work. And to be honest, those are the people that I know I can help, because any kind of coach, therapist, mentor, guide of any kind, they're like the Sherpa helping carry some of your gear up the mountain, but they're not the ones climbing the mountain. You still have to climb the damn thing. And so if you can figure out like, okay, what are some of the challenges I'm facing, and how can I connect with the right type of person who can help me overcome that challenge? That's all working with a coach or mentor is. That's all it is. It's like a speed boost on the way up the path that you're already going, but you still have to walk it. It just helps lighten the burden and get you there a bit faster.
What are some of the qualities of the people who are willing to do the work?
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest qualities is like an eagerness, like a curiosity that kind of drives you. Because if you want to know how the world works and you want to know like why things are the way they are, that's something that you can always kind of come back to. You can always kind of draw upon that. But the other thing that I look for is like, are you willing to take responsibility? And if you're even willing to take a little bit of responsibility, we can develop that skill. I can teach you how to build that out and strengthen your ability. But if somebody comes in and is unwilling to entertain the idea that they can do something about their state of life, then I'm not going to work with that person, because I know that it'll be this battle of, me showing them like sort of the way forward and strategies and tools to use, but then being so stuck in the mindset of my life is so hard, I can't do anything about it. And I get that. I've been in that mindset, so I don't blame someone for that, but it's also not someone I would choose to work with until they can get to the point of saying, I don't necessarily know how I'm going to move forward, but I've decided to move forward. And I don't necessarily think that all the things that have happened to me are my fault, but I'm going to take responsibility because it is still in my life and I want to create the best experience of it that I can.
That line is fantastic because it is truth. Not everything that happens to us is our fault, but you must make the choice to be accountable for what happens to you. What's the other option? To do nothing, to whine and act as if you can't control anything in your life? Well, that's completely false, because there's so many aspects of life that we can control. And that point of controlling what you can and what's out of your control, try your best not to worry about it. It's a helpful one. But I think that is very important. If someone is at least willing to say, let's put the foot forward and I'm going to aim to be better, even if I think that's all you really need to help coach someone. Once they accept that they're committed to being better, I would remind them, hey, it's not going to happen overnight. Good things take time, but we will get you better. I will implement the tools or I'll show you the tools, and with patience, with the knowing that you're not perfect, you will make mistakes, and accept that. But I think life is so much about accepting things as they come, viewing past relationships or hardships as something that you've learned from. You gather that experience. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and you're finding yourself always. It's just this ever evolving journey of self-improvement. And there's not like a finish line. There's never a finish line, because our source or our creator has made us to be abundant beings. We're ever expanding, and there's no limits to what we can do. except for the limits that you put in your own head. And something I focus on a lot is the psychology aspect of self-belief and knowing that the good things take time, but each day is an opportunity, brick by brick, day by day. We should be aiming to get better. So, I mean, Benjamin, this conversation was
Yeah, it's
absolutely
beautiful, man.
fun. Just this is what I mean.
This has been so good.
Right. And connecting with people that you resonate with, and even people that I don't resonate with. It's always
Yeah.
a blast to learn and share ideas.
Yeah, I agree, man. Man, I know that like there was even some questions we didn't get to, so I'd love to chat further in the future. But man, it's been so good to come on and connect with you. And yeah, this has been awesome. Want to do this again at some point?
Yeah, exactly. We will do this again in the future. So if you have anywhere that you would like to direct the audience, you could let them know right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to connect further, people can connect with me on Twitter and just send me a DM. I don't always see the ones that go into from people I don't follow, but I try to check through every once in a while. And I don't know, I think no matter what direction people go, you know, I'm a coach and I work with people one-on-one. I do like a 3-month program and help people with like basically self-leadership, right? Figuring out what is the direction I want my life to go in. How do I build the energy and mindset to get there? But I think that whether you decide to work with someone or just kind of pursue personal development and self-mastery on your own, or, you know, some other completely different route, whatever it is, I think we all owe it to ourselves to commit time to that. Commit actual scheduled time to that, because that's what it takes to change your life. Right? It doesn't take being like super smart or having like a lucky childhood. It just takes a choice that you're going to create something different with your life, and you schedule the time into your week, and you commit to showing up, and you just keep showing up over and over and over, because there can be no finish line on creating a life that you enjoy and creating a life that you love, because like, you know, nobody's gonna come in and like take care of it for you. If you're like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to be happy in, you know, 2 weeks, or else what? Or else there's no, like, this is your life. And I think people just don't quite get that. They don't quite get the deep gravity of the fact that you are here one time in this life. And if you waste it on things that don't matter, you're going to get to the end of your life and you're going to regret wasting your energy on things that don't matter and never pursuing the things that were true to you, the things that felt like, oh man, if I did this, I would feel like me. Like that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here for. I don't think that we have really time to give toward, you know, people's opinions about us, because if we do, we're never going to do the silly, uncomfortable things it takes to get to a point of living in alignment with who we really are.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Benjamin. And I'm grateful for you.
Grateful for you, man. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Peace, brother.